a great weekend to be a UVA fan. Last night, the ring ceremony honoring the national championship team. Tonight, big game versus Florida State. Let's go Hoos. Let's get it. In between, Locker Room Access coming to you live, our first podcast from Renewal on Main Street in Charlottesville. I'm Mark Jerome. Alongside of me, third team All-American, second team All-ACC, 21st pick, 2015 draft, Dallas Mavericks, Justin Anderson.
Thank you.
Justin was the first UVA student athlete I got to meet outside of Mike Tobey because I knew him from New York.
Yep.
On Ty's unofficial visit, you hung out with us. You were like the very, very popular mayor walking around campus. But you almost didn't come to UVA.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You were slated to go to Maryland. Gary Williams retires.
Yep.
What happens?
Man, it's crazy. That was probably, 7 years ago now. I was in high school, and you know how it is with the big decision. Shout out to my boy Evan Nolte, came in with me here in the building tonight. Fellow freshman with me. I originally committed to the University of Maryland, actually. Gary Williams was one of my favorite coaches. Gravis Vasquez played for my high school coach, Stu Vetter at Montrose Christian. I loved the relationship that they had. They were very passionate and very fiery. I wanted to have that in a college coach. Gary Williams ended up retiring, and I went opposite in Coach Bennett with poise, calm, collected, and still was able to maintain my character, still was able to be crazy and wild out there. But what a great decision to end up here playing for my home state and being able to finally bring a championship or help bring a championship back to this state, this city of Charlottesville. So it's just a great feeling, a great decision that I made.
Well, we're all happy you did it.
Thank you. I am too.
We've got a great lineup for you today. We're going to kick it off with a football player. The second overall pick in 2008 by the St. Louis Rams. Two-time Super Bowl champ. UVA All-American, Charlottesville's own Chris Long.
Where do you want me? Right here?
Right here.
Okay.
Right here. We first met outside in Minneapolis, outside the arena, championship game.
Yeah.
At the end of the championship, you and I were two of the last people in the arena. Everybody left. The arena's empty.
Yeah.
75,000 people there. Everyone leaves. You and I and the cleanup crew are there.
Yep.
You clearly are very supportive of UVA sports.
Yeah, for
Your
sure.
time here had to be really important. What was it about UVA that made it so special for you?
Well, I think first off, I grew up right down the road. When my pops retired, my dad played 13 years for the Raiders, and now for the younger folks, he's the guy with the flat top on TV on Sundays. But to older folks, they knew him as, Hall of Fame football player, Super Bowl champion. And when he retired from the Raiders, we moved to Charlottesville. So I was like 7, 8 years old, and that's been home since. So for me, the first offer I got, I took it. Algro, first off, I didn't think I was that good. So the first offer, the first thing that came across the desk, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to UVA. But staying home and loyalty is important for me, and this town's important for me. This is home for me and my family, my 2 boys, my wife Meg. UVA is huge. I've watched UVA through the ups and downs of basketball, and guys like Justin coming in and Ty and some of these guys that are here today, they built that program from the ground up, and Broncos doing it with football. It just makes you proud. And I got a buddy that works for Virginia Sports, and we went to high school together. His name's Macon Gunner. And it was real special for us because we've been going to games since we were kids. So to be on the floor afterwards, he couldn't leave because he was with Jimmy Miller, and they had to wrap it up. And I was happy to stay there for about 2 hours. I know for you it was even more special.
I couldn't get off the court.
Yeah,
I dreamed of that since I was little.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Chris, this is something that I'm interested in. What was it like for Chris Long walking on campus when you were here? We hear so much about the professional athlete.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your college experience here at UVA, because I know mine was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. College football, much like college basketball, it's a job. It's hard. And Algro was a authoritarian coach, and he's somebody who's like a family member to me. I talked to him yesterday. I talk to him all the time. My teammates and I still are tight. We formed a bond through hard work. blood, sweat, and tears, the cliche. I mean, really, we crossed all three off that checklist. And, for me, it wasn't a normal college experience because of the commitment we had, and you can identify with this, but it was special. And I didn't know I was that good. In my head, I was swimming. I was swimming to learn the 3-4 when I got to school. It was a new system for me. I was swimming to adapt to that pro-style program that Coach Groh was running. And I've said this publicly. I almost transferred my sophomore year because I was down on myself, like any other college athlete. Yep. And that fact shows you, somebody looking from the outside is like, this kid's an All-American. He's, up for all these awards. Like, life's hard for every college athlete.
Absolutely.
And you're forgetting these kids are 18, 19 years old. And, they're getting to campus and they look like they're invincible, but they're going through struggles. So for me, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There's a lot of hard work, and the academics are tough. Yep. You couple that with the football, but we had fun too. I made sure we had fun.
Yep.
You're using your on-field fame, you're using your on-court fame to build a platform of giving back.
Yep.
You have a foundation that prides itself on education equality. You both are part of this organization, Waterboys, which creates wells for drinking water in Africa.
Yeah.
By the way, that was the coolest trip that I've ever been on. Tanzania, East Africa. Got the opportunity to go because of Chris. Thank you for that.
Well, hey, listen, don't thank me. I'm thanking you because, and here's the deal. We started with football with Waterboys, and if you want to check it out, it's waterboys.org. We have the Hoops 2.0 branch in the NBA started by, my UVA peers here, including Justin, and Malcolm's heading that up, Brogdon. President Malcolm Brogdon. We always wanted to expand. We pride ourselves in providing clean water to communities who desperately need them. And we do some domestic work, but where I started was in East Africa. And a lot of times when you travel, people are like, why Tanzania? Why East Africa? It could be anywhere in the world because water is a global issue. And I just think, like, when you travel, just pick a place to start. And for me, that was Tanzania. If I spent 5 years thinking about where's the right place to start, it's paralysis by analysis. So Waterboys has grown. We've done over 60 large solar-powered wells. We've provided over 200,000 people with clean water. And with the help of these NBA guys at Hoops 2.0, we're going to take it to the next level. We really are, and the NBA is key in that.
Is there a responsibility from professional athletes to give back?
Responsibility is a tough word because I don't think you want to make anybody do the right thing, because if you have to twist somebody's arm to make a difference, they probably don't want to do it. I think as change makers and people in professional sports, you have to realize that you've been afforded a great opportunity. It's an opportunity is the way I look at it. Not everybody's going to take it, but the guys who are convicted about making a difference, it's your job to seize it and go get guys who are like-minded, guys and girls who are like-minded in professional sports, who are influencers, to bring them with you to make a difference. I could never make that much of a difference with Waterboys alone. I played in obscurity for 8 years in St. Louis. In the prime of my career, I needed to bring my friends with me in other markets and eventually in other leagues. And as I retired recently, I brought Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns, who's a total stud, along to replace me as the active captain. I mean, I'm still running the show per se, but it's that sort of thing. It's saying, like, I can't do it all myself. And so it's an opportunity, and you got to bring your friends along.
Talk a little bit about that. You bring up, now that you're retired, being able to jump into different business ventures. For you guys, I don't think you guys understand, as athletes, we've done this since we were young. I mean, this is our focus, this is our life, and now all of a sudden, not only can we not do it anymore, we don't necessarily have that same drive, that same passion.
Yeah.
I hope to not see it for another 8 to 10 years, but talk a little bit about what retirement's been like for you.
Yeah, well, retirement's been great. I mean, I think in the NBA is certainly like this, but in the NFL, you hear a lot about guys who struggle after they retire. I mean, and I think a lot of it, there's obviously talk about, head trauma and that sort of thing. I think the thing we play down is the existential crisis that you're touching on that occurs when you've been doing something, you've been purposed as a human being since you were a kid. And a lot of times you see pro athletes and you're like, okay, they became a pro athlete in 2008 for me or whatever. I became a pro athlete when I was 16 years old, and I'm lifting weights after basketball practice until 9 o'clock, and I'm training all summer, and I'm sacrificing my time in college, in high school. I didn't know necessarily I wanted to play in the NFL, but I wanted to attack everything like it was the most important thing in the world. So as you move up in levels, you get to this peak of your life's work. And for everybody else, if you're lucky, you can work till you're 60, you retire, and certainly I'm not saying we have it bad, because we're very blessed. But things stop, and they stop fast. In the NFL, the average career is 3 years. And guys who play 3 years, they don't necessarily make enough money to sustain them for the rest of their lives. They haven't been able to start in business. They haven't been able to get that head start that some of their friends, I play with guys that are in Wall Street. They moved out west. They're in D.C. doing stuff. Imagine a guy playing 5 years. You're 5 years behind in the workforce. Not only that, you're looked at as like damaged goods. Yep. And it's funny, like when I was 34 in my locker room last year, and people look at you like you're dying, even if you're playing well. Yep. And that's the hard part. So you have to kind of reinvent yourself. I got to tell you, retirement's not as scary as people make it out to be. It's like the fear of it is a lot worse than actually crossing that threshold. I've really enjoyed kind of trying to reinvent myself.
I watched a really cool Kobe interview, and he talked about everybody trying to warn him. Yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. And he's like, no, I'll be fine. Yeah, I gave the sport my all. So now it's time to close that chapter and start something new. So it's actually really awesome to see as a younger brother or someone to look up to you. It's actually a funny story for you guys who don't know. I remember the first time you sent me a text. And I think that's when I realized, like, wow, like, this is cool. Like, Chris Long just actually texted me. Like, but, like, I appreciated that because it's crossing not only about basketball. Obviously, the Corey Alexanders, the Ralph Sampsons, talking to those guys is great, unbelievable. Yeah. But to be able to have a legend like you be able to come and reach out to me as a younger college player with no intent was awesome. My second year, I actually thought about transferring as well, something that I had never talked about. And it was very hard for me because I had a high expectation for myself. I didn't feel like I was achieving it. And the first thing that I wanted to do was run. I think that was a lot of mental.
Fight or flight.
Right. Right. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about, and I know we're wrapping up here shortly, but talk to me a little bit about mental health in sports today. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you've seen from 2008 when you first came in to what you've learned here that you're now retired.
Well, this is something that's important, and some people might not understand this or believe it, but you don't know how stressed out you are and how mentally unwell you are playing professional sports until the treadmill stops and you get off it. I got to tell you, the last 6 months of my life, or since May when I retired, I've kind of figured out who I am a little more. You don't have time to work on you. You don't have a second to breathe. You don't have a second to, you're running, literally I go to a doctor and get your blood work done, and they're like, your adrenal glands are like, they're off the charts active because you're just running on adrenaline for 11 years. I mean, and that can wear you down. It can wear you out. So there's not only the physical toll, but there's the mental toll. And then we talked about the threshold. When you cross that threshold, if you just cross it with an open mind, and another thing is you have to surround yourself with a support system. For me, I have a beautiful family who is the most important thing in the world to me. I have things outside of football that I've worked on to try to remain a complete human being, and you're doing that with basketball. It makes it easier. But mental health is something we don't like talking about. Yeah. And pro athletes, I think a lot of people think, well, money and fame or, they make you immune. They really don't. Yep. They really don't. Because we're imperfect and we're flawed and we go through struggles just like people that are working 9 to 5s or people that are watching the game as well. And that's not complaining about being a pro athlete. It's a trade-off. We're very blessed. But mental health is not something we can sweep under the rug.
It's awesome.
2 consecutive Super Bowl champions.
Yeah.
What was the difference between the coaches? People want to know about Belichick.
Totally different. And there's tons of ways to get it done, right? In the NFL, it's funny because this whole Fair Play for Pay Act made me, in a convoluted way, think about the parity in the NFL and all the teams that win. The NCAA came in and said, well, we're protecting parity. We don't want the same teams winning a championship all the time. And I said, well, that can't be, because all I remember is Alabama, Clemson. So I looked at the list since I've been in the league of NCAA football teams that have won a championship, and I think there's been 6, but they're from 2 ACC and the SEC, and Ohio State won it once. There's like 6 teams. In the NFL, it's like 10 teams. So the parity in the NFL, I know Bill's great, the Patriots are great, but it's totally up in the air every year. And I think a lot of people get this idea that there's a foregone conclusion that Bill's this much above everybody else, which I think he might be, and Tom is. But every different coach is there. You got Pete Carroll, you got Doug Peterson, you've got Tomlin, who's won a ring, you've got Bill, obviously, who's won a couple. Bill is an authoritarian. He's old school. He's a guy who's all business, and I think what makes the Patriots great is you think about Bill as being very stubborn. Bill's stubborn, but that team is malleable. Schematically, they do whatever it takes to win. Okay, this is kind of granular, but they lost Rob Gronkowski last year, right? Everybody knows who Rob Gronkowski is. Second best Patriot of all time, behind Tom Brady. Everybody thinks if without Gronk, their offense is going to fall apart. They don't have any tight ends. They ran 25 plays without tight ends in their opening game against the Steelers. You know how many they ran last year alone? They ran 24 plays with no tight ends. So they adapt and they overcome. They change their defense based on scheme. So while they have a culture that's rigid, their scheme is different. Doug Peterson is a player's coach. He's high energy. He's very different in personality than Bill. And he's a guy that he's going to be brash. His play calling is brash. You see what, Philly special in the Super Bowl. I mean, imagine having the stones to pull that off.
That was super cool.
And you saw Carolina the other night tried to copy it, and they got stopped on 4th and 1. There was an offshoot of that. But yeah, they're just different coaches. And the point is, in the NFL, as much as you think of the Patriots as a dynasty post-2000, if it wasn't for the Seattle play where Darrell Bevell threw the ball on the 1-yard line and Malcolm Butler picked it off, they go like a decade plus between Super Bowls. I mean, so it's interesting the little things that change that are the difference between a Super Bowl and not, and also the parity in the NFL. There really is a lot.
That's awesome.
Well, Chris, we're going to keep the show going. Thanks so much for joining us today.
I got one more question for you.
Okay, hold on. We got one more question. It's a big one. I think the audience is going to love this one.
So it's obviously football. It's game day here in Charlottesville. We got Florida State coming.
Yeah.
I got Joe Reed taking one to the crib.
Yeah.
From a kick return.
Yeah.
I need your prediction for tonight. Give me a score prediction for tonight.
I think we win. I'll say 38-28. I think both teams are going to be around 30 points, but I think where we're going to make a difference is in the second half. Florida State has struggled in the second half. You saw that against Boise. You saw that against whoever the hell they played the next week that they almost got beat by. We're a team that's going to get stronger as the game goes on because we're built like that, and I think we pull away in the second half. I think there's going to be some nervousness in the first half because that front's good and Bryce has been getting hit a lot. I think in the second half we pull away.
38-28. Who's? Let's do it.
Chris, thanks so much for joining us. Pleasure to have you. Thanks a lot, man. See you soon.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
We're going to kick it back.
As a parting gift, we have a little care package for you. This is the UMBC redemption shirt.
We can laugh now.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
This sold for $350 on the auction last night.
I love it.
So
I love it.
If you don't like it, eBay.
Okay, cool.
Pick it up.
I appreciate it.